JB here. Hope everyone's doing on Sunday, Monday, May 5th, 3:17. It's fine afternoon. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Talk really quick. It's gonna be a quick rant. Kind of one of those boring sessions. Thankful, one half, thankfully, it wasn't a crazy gap and sell off at the open. Markets have recovered. But on the flip side, some of the names that either were at highs or playing for a bounce, it just seems like they're fizzling, chopping around. So uh, let's take a look at the S&P. It's still tight range. Thankfully, held the 50-day moving average. The low this morning, 561.70. So that's a good sign there. And then on the flip side, we got that 200-day moving average at 570. So I think the best scenario here headed into the Fed meeting on Wednesday would be continued consolidation and hopefully green, but not too far either side, right? Just consolidation to set up for the next leg to the upside. Some fun. So you had POTUS this earlier today. I think he was announcing the draft for the NFL is going to be in Washington D.C. and then he answers questions like he always does, and similar stuff. And also, Bessent was at the Malkin conference this morning. Similar, all the same comments, right? 17 deals are in the works. Um, we're talking with China, or however that all works. It just there needs to be some deals happening pretty soon, or I think that it's just then the longer it goes, the more impacts it has on businesses, the more impacts on the business, the then the consumer. It's just a whole snowball effect, right? So you just hope, especially with the China situation, that gets pulled back or some kind of pause done very soon. And then it's kind of like and nothing new, but it's like fire first, ask questions later, right? With this tariff on movies, the 100% tariff, like so POTUS announced that on his social media, and then it's like, what does that look like? What's it for? Who's it for? It's like if you have a good movie that's abroad, why should it be? I don't. It's just kind of those things that it just kind of boggles my mind. Similar to when they came out with that poster board well, it's a month ago. So that's kind of where we're at right now. It's just frustrating day today. It's not to me. It's not a day to kind of like to chase things. Um, Only one trade today, and then because of the lack of news over the weekend and no updates in China, some of these names, the Wayfarers and the Restoration Hardware is not doing too well. But all right, so that's kind of the overall market there. The amount of stocks trading over there, 200-day moving average on the S&P, ticked down just 1%, so nothing to see there. Just want to see that start to trend in the right direction over 50 or at least over 50%. And that's that. So now just individual names. I know I have exact science up here first, but that's that one's up 4%. Continuation from Friday. You would think it's a great continuation because it was green on Friday, but the green was giving back gains from the highs, right? So the highs on Friday, I think it was 54.71, and then it went all the way back down to 50 and then bounced. And then it closed at like 51.50. So some continuation here today. That's a good sign. Follow through. That 54.71 handle breaks, and I think it's off to races. I put in the chat room, I think 55, somewhere in there. Maybe tomorrow's the day. And then you look at the 200-day moving average, 58.82. So key spots above there. And then I think that one can start to melt towards $60. Well, it's going to need to start going. Hopefully, the premiums start creeping back into the calls. And then the only trade I did today was adding those deck spec calls and back into deck finally. I was in deck a couple weeks ago. Most of the calls paid out. Uh, so you have kind of two catalysts, right? The first, obviously, is the trade war. And you take a look at deck has been absolutely demolished since its earnings and then the tariffs, right? So it's kind of like a double whammy. And the earnings weren't like horrible. It was just like the stock was priced for perfection. Then it started to find some support after the tariff situation at the start of the month, and it's kind of been churning, and now it's starting to break to the upside. And it just broke over its 50-day moving average today at 117.59. And then you have the Skechers buyout for 27% premium. To me, it means like these brands, especially in the footwear sector, they should all be getting a premium bid just based on that M&A. So I'm surprised Deck isn't up more. Hopefully some continuation tomorrow and or some kind of updates in regards to China and the trade deal. And I think this trades 130, 135 plus in the coming days. So I'll continue to hold those strikes. Again, it's like a spec trade. It's just I was looking at the 125s, but then uh, who knows? Headline driven stuff. I don't want to I don't want to put a lot of risk in for an event that might not happen. So I'd rather do a small position, which I did, far out of the money. Uh, High risk, high reward, low risk on, meaning not a huge position. All right, so that's deck. And then RH and W just disappointing here today. Again, some of it I think is the move last week, and then some of it's because of the China situation not having any kind of positive updates. Same with Wayfair. Unfortunately, Wayfair is back under its 50-day moving average. I don't know if it's going to get a chance to get back over that before the close. It's down, yeah, it's at 31 bucks. And you just hope it holds that gap from 30.99. It's close here. Still like those two. Thankful to have locked some in for over 100% last week to cover the costs, and I'll just continue to hold those. And then the other day is VKTX. Pretty much, is it green yet? Nope, nope. It's down like 0.7%. Nothing to see here. I was looking to possibly close my May strikes. The last of my Mays on VKTX and GPCR, but I'll be patient there. Just kind of like food for thought this morning. Reddit was one of those names I was going to get calls on in the morning, and then it broke out, then it reversed down, broke out again up to 116, broke down, and it was like fourth time was the charm, and then it broke up to 117. The 130s were like $1 by $1.18, somewhere in there. I passed, and then by 1 o'clock it goes all the way up over 120. I was going to add again. I look at the 130s, and the premiums they didn't elevate too much. They might have been like 135, right? So I mean, good trade, 35% in a matter of an hour or two. But to me, I'm not looking for 35%. I'm looking for follow through, right? So to get the multi baggers, and then it fades a little bit back down to 118. And I'm looking at the 130s, and now they're 89 by 97 cents, and they're like red on the day, right? So that's kind of the day we're in. Reddit's up 3.67%, and the out of money calls are red. So that's kind of like that's frustrating. So not going to sit here and try and just make something. I'm not going to force trade anything. So I'll just sit on my hands. Earnings after the close, you have HIMS, PLTR. What a, like, I hate to use the word cult stock, but I mean, that's kind of what these meme stocks were anyway. But I mean, it's almost like that one doesn't even have to beat earnings, and the thing's probably gonna be like 150 tomorrow, but it's just not one I would trade. I remember looking at it 30 bucks uh, early last year, and I'm like, you look at the fundamentals, I'm like, wow, this thing's overvalued, but I didn't really know the story. And then you start doing due diligence, and I look at the CEO. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's interesting character. So those kind of kept me away from trying to trade it. And of course, look where it is now. Tomorrow morning, Celsius, another name. I would love to trade that one. I missed the last move after they announced M&A, and then it's been a nice melt up. I think a great story. I just tough one to try and trade. So I'll probably sit on the sidelines. I was trying to see some of the other names I was looking at today. Yeah, I mean, take a look at WW. Gosh, my thoughts on that. I don't want to go on a huge rant on that one. It, great story too. And I always talked about their brand name and all that stuff, but some of that's been tarnished now on the bankruptcy rumors and things like that. But it's like they could have been hymns, and instead of being hymns, they were late to the game, and that's what happens. They're like the blockbuster of health, of weight loss, right? uh, so funny how that all works, but I mean they still have a huge opportunity, and it's like anyway, that's the rant today, folks. I'll be back on audio later. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.